Okay, we're on to chapter 4 right now. We're ready to go live with the next section. This one is recruiting and selecting. And right now we're doing the Washington State Managing Brokers exam. And this is the business management section that we're studying. Recruiting and selecting. When we're done with this, we want to be able to explain the process of determining the number of licensees that we need to have in our office to meet production and profitability goals for our firm. We want to identify and describe office standards for affiliated licensees. We want to develop a recruiting plan for new and experienced affiliated licensees. We want to develop a hiring practices checklist. We want to identify appropriate and prohibited interview questions. We have to watch out for discrimination, harassment, all those different things that aren't okay. Identify required employee records and perform a mock interview and select potential affiliated licensees according to a job description. That's an important one, a job description. Determining how many brokers to hire. So there's variable expenses and there's fixed expenses. Some fixed expenses are going to be mortgages or rent for the office, signage for the office if we pay a lease on that, staff, contract personnel, business licenses, property taxes, insurance, security systems, maintenance personnel such as repair persons, janitors, and plant care professionals. Variable expenses are going to be things like business tax, recruiting expenses, desks, chairs, desk lamps, office supplies, office equipment, utilities, things like that. So our computation for operating expenses are going to be, say we're hiring one new licensee. A desk is going to be $200. A desk chair is $100. A desk lamp is $35. And an estimate on increased utilities is $20. So we're going to say every new person is going to cost us $355. We're going to add the total of the fixed expenses, the $355, and we're going to assume that the brokerage is 100% desk fee company and that each licensee pays $900 a month. So that means if we have 10 brokers times $900 a month, that's $9,000 per month. If we multiply that times 12, that's $108,000 for the year. We can handle variable expenses similarly, but it says in here that if we make a mistake and it costs $455 per employee times 10 licensees that we took on, then that mistake could cost us $12,000 a year. So we have to have a 10% leeway so that we can make sure if we do make an expense or a mistake and there's a change in some expense, that we've got some kind of flexibility there. Always provide yourself a cushion for unforeseen expenses. You can mitigate any problems by projecting ahead of time what you would do in the event you are wrong by 10% in either direction. That's it. Profit or loss. The income calculation has to be greater than the operating expense to realize a profit. Makes sense? Doesn't mean it always happens. If not, then there's a loss. If there's a loss, greater funds will have to be allocated toward recruiting more licensees unless your business model does not allow licensees to recoup their own costs. As odd as that sounds, it does happen that each added broker creates a bigger loss for the firm. Also, do not forget to add in taxes and a salary for the designated broker or appointed managing broker. Working as a supervisor and making sure to follow all the state laws regarding the brokerage are time-consuming activities and will detract from time available to sell properties. As the firm gets larger, the designated broker will likely not have time to sell property and therefore will need to be compensated for the lack of commission income. And that's not a minimum wage job. Office standards for affiliated licensees. Office standards for both employees and independent contractors should be in writing in the form of an office policy manual. Should a dispute arise between management and an affiliated licensee, this manual could prove to be invaluable for resolving any issue. There are many different business models that a brokerage might adopt. A brokerage may also concentrate in a particular area, specialization within the industry. Because of this, the standards for its affiliates may vary drastically. Office standards should be clear and unambiguous. The following are some suggestions that might be covered. Compliance with local, state, and federal laws. This would apply for every brokerage, no matter what the business model may be, as far as the specialization it may be working in. If the affiliate is not in compliance with these laws, then the consequences for non-compliance should also be addressed. That's me. Like if I don't turn my paperwork in within 2 days, I have to eventually be addressed. This would include, but not be limited to, fair housing and discrimination, ADA, RESPA, structural inspection referrals, and handling of trust funds. Regulation Z, title company, referrals, compliance with Washington state and real estate codes, disclosure of affiliated business relationships, and compliance with the local MLS rules and bylaws. Continuing education and required clock hours should also be addressed. So all of these are going to be in my manual. And my manual is going to be called, because of unambiguous standards, what were we going to call it? An office standards for both employees and independent contractors, an office policy manual. I think that's an invaluable resource. It may cover things all the way down to dress code. Like I've worked in offices before where it's been a problem as far as certain things aren't okay. And you could move toward lines of discrimination if that's something that wasn't addressed ahead of time. And is that okay? Can your company tell you how to dress? Can you smoke at the office? Do you have to smoke 25 feet away from the door? Or can you not smoke on the property? Can you bring your dog to work? Like big things that you need to be able to have in your office policy manual so that it doesn't become one person getting targeted and everybody else kind of complaining. Okay, compliance with local and state and federal laws. That's just a given. Commission structure. Some brokerages offer a desk fee plan where the licensee receives 100% of the commission, that's me, and pays a flat monthly fee. What's going to happen if somebody is not paying their rent 2 or 3 months in advance? Do they still get 100% of their commission, or do they have to go to a 90-10, then an 80-20, then a 70-30? Are you going to do that to encourage these people to bring money in? Because you're not just trying to run your office to just get that monthly desk fee. You want your people to be successful. And if they're not being successful as 100% agents, what's it going to take for them to be successful? To stay at 100%? Is it going to take coming to a training session? What is your particular business model? Some brokerages may not charge a monthly fee, but instead have a commission split, such as 30% to the broker and 70% to the licensee. Others have a commission structure where a combination of the two. You hit a certain price point and then you get to switch to 100%. Brokerage offices versus home office. In recent times, the home office, well, that's the way of the future. Obviously, everybody's working from home for the main point now after COVID. There's advantages and disadvantages to both. Are you going to have monthly meetings where people have to come in? And is there a compliance issue where if people aren't getting their paperwork in on time, does that have something to do with the fact that they work from home and that may be holding them back? Dress attire. Whether a firm decides to adopt a dress code is entirely voluntary and may depend on the area of specialization or the location of the brokerage. Firms should clearly state their expectations to their affiliates if they choose to mandate a dress code. I personally don't adhere to the dress code. You could tell. I'm not wearing a 3-piece suit to work. That doesn't interest me. And I could see some dress code things like no lingerie. That's a big one. Wearing things that are socially appropriate, but that's just a case by case. Office policy on the use of office equipment and material. Some brokerages may charge their affiliate to use the equipment for marketing materials such as photocopying, long-distance phone calls, a toll-free phone line, and marketing materials. These charges can add up, and who pays them should be clearly defined. Policy on office hours and use. Safety for the affiliates, theft, and alarm systems. What time is the office available? Error and omissions insurance. E&O insurance protects the licensee and the broker from just that, errors and omissions. Washington State does not require that the brokerage carry this insurance. However, many of them choose to purchase it. The details in terms of the coverage may include the following: limits of liability for each claim, limits of liability for each annual period, extending reporting, deductible, annual premiums, exclusions to the coverage, annual premium, types of property to be insured, such as residential, commercial, personal injury, subrogation, lockbox property damage, fair housing coverage, pollution coverage, bankruptcy or insolvency of the insured, assignment of the policy, arbitration, cancellation terms of the policy, conformance to state statutes. Each licensee should know exactly what type of E&O coverage their brokerage carries. The brokerage should address the following: what does the brokerage have E&O coverage? 4, do the licensees pay for the coverage? I pay for mine out of every transaction. What is the deductible? What's the limit? What's the aggregate limit for coverage for the year or the policy period? When selling their own property, is someone covered by E&O? Office policy on administrative staff and meetings. The firm should clearly state what types of staffing that it provides and if it expects its affiliates to answer phone in hopes of developing leads, referred to as floor time. The brokerage should also clearly state the frequency, dates, and times of office meetings. Office policy on transaction and paperwork. Transaction paperwork is required by state law. Without it, the managing designated broker cannot perform their supervisory role, which it also states is a law. Brokerages should clearly define when paperwork must be turned in and when missing paperwork must be submitted. There should also be a clear guideline for how brokers should submit their paperwork. Advertising. Some brokerages have a policy that management must approve all advertising for flyers, newspaper ads, internet ads, promotional pieces, open house agreements. The reasoning behind the pre-approval policy: assuring that the licensee is adhering to brokerage policy, checking for content, checking to be sure that there are no violations such as discrimination, fair housing, and MLS rules. The firm should clearly state if pre-approval of advertising material is required. The affiliate as a principal in a transaction. Some brokerages won't allow their affiliates to represent themselves, which may involve liability and E&O coverage. Termination. If an affiliate leaves a brokerage, how are you going to handle it? Will the firm release the listing for the broker to sign with the next brokerage, or do they hold them? Franchise fees. Many larger firms require a franchise fee, which might be monthly, annual, or a percentage of the gross commission. L&I. L&I uses the WC classification to collect loss information for each industry and insures. This loss classification is used to establish premium rates that employers in each industry will pay their WC insurance. L&I goal is to produce fair insurance rates that reflect the hazard level of each industry. Employers engaged in more hazardous industries, such as logging, will tend to pay higher insurance rates than employers engaged in retail store operations. Storage and confidentiality of transactions and listing files. All brokerage files should be stored so that the staff has access to them, but the affiliates do not. If an affiliate requests to look at a file that is not their own, a file belonging to another affiliate, permission should be obtained by the managing broker or designated broker. Many brokerages keep their files in locked file cabinets or in a special room. Recruiting plan. Recruiting is extremely important if the brokerage intends to grow. Even if the brokerage does not intend to grow, there will always be brokers who leave for whatever reason. And the reason to stay profitable will be dependent on recruiting efforts. As with all projects, make a plan on how and when to recruit. Stick to it and assess its result frequently. Recruiting new brokers. The following are some ways that a broker may want to attract new licensees. Become a marketing partner with a school that provides pre-licensure training. Advertise a new licensee training program. Use social networking such as Facebook to connect with potential licensees. Provide more services and offer the licensee more commission if profits will allow for this. Clearly have a plan to show new brokers how it will assist them in building their business and support it provides new brokers as they start. Recruiting experienced brokers. There are two things you should know about recruiting successful affiliates: what they're looking for in joining a new brokerage, why they may want to leave their current brokerage. The following is a list of some things that successful affiliates are looking for: high technology, marketing, calls off their own signs, competitive compensation plans, professional working environment, quality of support systems. Why some licensees may want to leave: lack of the previous stated attributes, not being able to obtain real estate advice in a timely manner, personality issues, brokerage office location, being prohibited from being a principal in their own transaction, being prohibited from working from home, having to get prior management approval for advertising, desk fee cost, poor working environment, unavailability of latest technology. Methods to recruit experienced licensees. Offer your existing licensees incentive for bringing other brokers to the firm. Mail and email information to existing licensees. Identify top producers through the following means: the number of listings they have, the for sale signs in the area, word of mouth, frequency that a licensee cooperates with your agents, thank you letters to co-op agents, targeting licensees affiliated with firms that are having difficulty, asking your current licensee about other licensees that they have had positive real estate dealings with. Retention. When most brokers think about recruiting, they rarely consider retention. If you court a broker only until they join your firm, then move on to someone else, your office will have a revolving door. Hiring practices checklist. This assumes that the brokerage and broker have already made the decision to work together. Existing license should be signed off from the old broker and transferred to the new. The broker and the managing broker should carefully review the sign-on employee and independent contractor agreement. The application from the DOL to become a broker, managing broker, or branch manager. Include all the required fees. Any necessary form for the local MLS should be completed to notify them to make the change. Keys for the office and codes for the security system. A new licensee orientation should be scheduled as soon as possible. Use of the office equipment, getting a desk, procedure for turning in paperwork, dates and times of office meetings, adding the licensee to the broker's website, whom to call to get real estate advice, general office procedures, instructions on the phone system. I kind of want to do one of those at my office. I can't even remember my password to make copies, and I need to do it pretty soon. And every time I need to do it, I don't know it. So I need to find it out again tomorrow. All the above should be compiled into a checklist so nothing's missed. Interviewing. Before brokers are hired, interviewing is an important way to identify talented individuals who will fit the goals of the firm. Appropriate interview questions might include candidate's name, address, specific date, desired salary, education, experience as it relates to the job, perceived strengths and weaknesses, times they had a conflict at work and how they resolved it, career goals, how they're motivated, references, former employers, present employers, social security number. Employers are prohibited from asking any of the following questions: race, religion, sex, sexual orientation, national origin, birthplace, age, disability, marital or family status, and citizenship in the U.S. Not hiring a person because of these answers would be discriminatory. Required employee records. Generally, the personnel file must include such documents as those kept for business or legal purposes, worker qualifications, verification of training, completed job descriptions, the supervisor's files, performance evaluations, or records that are subject to reference for information given to persons outside the business. May the employer remove information from an employee's personal file? Yes. The employer may make a decision to remove any irrelevant or erroneous information in the personnel file. If the current or former employee does not agree with the employer's decision to remove the information, the employee may write a rebuttal or correct the statement. The following interview is between an employer and a future candidate. They're going to ask questions like, I see that you're applying for the position of office manager. Yes, it sounds like an exciting position. Let me tell you a little bit more about the position, and then they're going to respond to them. The candidate, that sounds like an interesting position, and I think I may be able to be an asset to your firm. I think that I could interface with your affiliates. Employer, perhaps you could tell me about some of your past education and experience that you think would be directly relevant to the position. Then you're going to talk about location. The candidate's going to say a minimum salary of how much a year is what they're looking for. And the employer is going to finish up and see if it's a good fit. Don't forget, don't ask them questions about the things that are discriminatory, because you're not looking for a lawsuit. And that's all we got for that chapter. Congratulations. We're totally going to pass this test.